the Ken Blackwells. I mean, is the old guard out? Are we only going to? Are you only in the future? Are you going to go after the new faces, the fresh faces?
Look, Jim Petro has expressed an interest in possibly pursuing something in 2010. Candidly, I've had no conversation with Betty Montgomery where she has expressed even an interest in stepping back into political life. Nor have I had any sort of conversation of that kind with Ken Blackwell either. What I think the party needs and where it's going is with a new set of faces, with a new set of faces, with a new set of ideas, and it's what the party needs to do, not just here in Ohio. It's what the party needs to do nationally.
What about, will there be a temptation, given her popularity, to move Maureen O'Connor into the race for Attorney General, or maybe even the governor's race in 2 years?
I had a nice long conversation with Maureen O'Connor yesterday where I congratulated her for her reelection, and that's as far as the conversation went. I'm interested in making sure that we hold on to the majority and the domination on the U.S. Supreme Court. That too, on the Ohio Supreme Court, and I'm not really entertaining any of those kinds of thoughts right now.
How does Senator Voinovich fit into this new leaders package
Well,
you're
look,
talking
I think
about? He's nearly 80 years old when he runs.
Yeah, Senator Voinovich. I think Senator Voinovich is. We'll have a conversation, in the days and weeks that follow. But every time I've had a conversation with Senator Voinovich, he has shown a level of energy and engagement that candidly I think fits in well with this group. I think he's going to have the ability to do well on this kind of a ticket, in part because he brings a certain stability, a certain knowledge about the state, a certain knowledge on national and state issues that I think will be helpful to the candidates and to the party.
And there's no one who can be more helpful to the party in returning us to our roots of fiscal conservatism and fiscal responsibility than George Voinovich.
Kevin, you talked about, with so many races that are close at the local level and your interest in provisional voting and how they were counted, on top of that, the lawsuit that reactivated on Labor Day, what challenges are in the near future?
Yeah, look, we're watching that very closely. If the law is filed and, if the law is followed on provisional ballots, meaning only those who are eligible and legal and verifiable get counted. We'll take whatever the results may be. We know it'll be very close in the Jim McGregor race. Likely result in a recount. We'll be there along the way, beside them along the way. Same thing in the Jill Thompson seat down in southeast Ohio. She lost by 170 votes, likely to end up in a recount. The Steve Stivers race, likely headed for a recount. As long as we will remain vigilant with the boards of elections to make sure that only those who are properly registered and eligible to cast a ballot have their vote counted. That's our job.
But nothing, not to prohibit the legal strategy, but I mean, are you considering any legal challenges in the future? Is there anything now that you think needs to be looked at?
No, there's nothing. There's no grand legal strategy to deal with this at this point in time. I mean, it's vigilance at the boards of elections. It's a reliance and a trust and a belief in the bipartisan county boards of elections to do their job and to do it appropriately.
Look for mentioning that the lawsuit that got reactivated on the voting day was indication by you that you'd be looking at legislation down the road to deal with issues, that issue that was raised there. Is there legislation that you think is needed?
Oh, I think
indicated in that suit. What is it?
Well, I think clearly there's legislation that is needed, and I think one thing we're going to do is we hope that Secretary Bruner, as a result of this, will come forward with a package of legislative changes that need to be made. We certainly have our own ideas. We certainly believe that the easy one to talk about is this golden wheat that's out there. We don't think that same-day registration was ever seriously contemplated in the state of Ohio. We don't think that the policies and the procedures are in place to take care of same-day registration as was interpreted in the state law by the Secretary of State between days 35 and 30 before the election. That is one where we can take care of that confusion very quickly by either extending voter registration deadline to 35 days, the cutoff out to 35 days, or making sure that absentees are available 30 days before the election. There's a variety of ways. There's a variety of things like that we think are legitimate. They're not all that complex in their solution, and we think they're fair.
Kevin, how do you respond to the Democrats who say that the intense focus on Secretary Bruner by both the state and national parties and allegations of voter registration or voter fraud was a distraction, and ultimately that this was a failed attempt at a wedge issue?
Oh, I don't buy that at all. Look, there's one thing that parties do. There's two things that parties do at this point in time. In the days and running up to the election, we try to get our voters to turn out, and we talked about the massive GOTV effort on our side and the numbers, and we feel very proud of those efforts. The other thing we do though is we fight to protect our candidates and our voters. And anytime the Democrats, be they candidates or elections officials, want to try to put up obstacles and roadblocks in front of our candidates or our voters, we have to fight. That's the job and the responsibility we have as a party. And so when Secretary Bruner essentially admitted that through her own manual that she wasn't doing the background checks on these massive numbers of new registrations, and when it came out through the course of litigation that she wasn't doing the background checks on better than 660,000 registrations, she wasn't sharing information about the 200,000 that she knows had a mismatch problem. That's a real problem. I mean, that's not a created wedge issue. That's a real problem for anybody, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. That's a real problem for anybody who cares about the integrity of the election. That's a real problem for anybody who wants to make sure that their vote gets counted and is not discounted by someone who shouldn't have been able to cast a ballot. That's where I think Secretary Bruner and really the Democrats have made a miscalculation. What people want at the end of the day is to be able to have confidence in their elections officials. I think people do have confidence in the 88 bipartisan county boards of elections. I give them all the credit in the world for things running, for the most part, very smoothly on election day. But I think Secretary Bruner misstepped and miscalculated over the course of the last 18 months by trying to micromanage and meddle in the operations of these county boards of elections, right down to the placement and the location of tables in the precincts on election day. I think she went too far, and it was only through the legal activity that we offered up that actually shone a little light on the fact that Bruner wasn't doing her job, shone light on the fact that she was micromanaging and meddling in areas in boards of elections that she didn't have to. And we think that litigation actually probably helped to dissuade her from doing, and her allies from doing more interesting or wild or crazy things on election day. I have no idea what they are, but we think it dissuaded her from some other shenanigans on election day.